My name's Paul Drake, and I'm a volunteer here at Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge, and I help with the architectural design here and building of the infrastructure, and I often am out there leading volunteer days, helping volunteers learn how to build things for the animals and help animals. I went vegan, I think in 2008, back when I kind of just graduated college in 2007, and I was vegetarian before that for a few years. I actually went vegetarian in college because my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, Lenore, she introduced me to vegetarianism. She was taking a class in college, a philosophy class, and one of the topics they learned about was ethics of eating animals. She kind of had a change very quickly at one point in college where she started going vegetarian. And I wasn't vegetarian, so I was eating my, ham sandwiches and things like that. We would have a lot of discussions, me and Lenore, about vegetarianism, and she'd get pretty upset. And she would also, she had a lot of backup because she was going to this philosophy class and she'd thought about all this stuff. And I'd never thought about it, I was just eating food, that's what I was doing. And so I ended up losing a lot of arguments with Lenore. And as, eventually I was like, well, you know what, I think she's right. So I went vegetarian. And was that way through most of college. And then after college, we were actually touring around, going to farms in Australia and New Zealand with a program called Willing Workers on Organic Farms. And we were kind of exploring what organic farms were like, and both vegetable and also dairy and other animals. We ended up going to this one dairy farm because I was still drinking what I thought was happy cow milk, like from Stonyfield and organic dairies. I was like, well, I wonder what their lives are actually like. And we went to this dairy farm, which was beautiful in New Zealand. It was absolutely gorgeous. And it was probably the happiest situation cows could be in as a dairy. But still, we learned that, what happens to all the babies that are generated, because the cows have to keep giving birth to have milk. And most of them get sent to slaughter. So I didn't agree with that. And, it was actually surprising to me. I had no idea. Ended up going vegan after that.
Define veganism.
Well, for me, veganism is just doing my best to not use animal products or services, and just in general trying to do the least harm to others as reasonably you can.
What are some common questions you get when people find out you're vegan?
I haven't had people ask me a ton of questions recently, but if they're asking you kind of philosophical questions, they often try to trip you up on some kind of hypocrisy that you have. So they'll ask you about insects or things like that. So, but it's, to me, it's like, it's hard not to be hypocritical at some point. But if you do the best that you reasonably can to not cause harm to others, for me, that's veganism.
What have you noticed different since becoming vegan, whether it's physically, mentally, or emotionally?
It's been so long since I first went vegan, but I would say I used to kind of feel heavy after meals, I think I remember, when I would eat meat. But there's a kind of a lighter feeling, and I think a little bit more, I think I just felt a little bit better after eating. than I did when I ate meat. You know, lighter physically, but also lighter conscience too.
What about, like, did you maybe have better blood work, lose weight, get sick less?
I don't have enough information for that. And no, I don't think I lost weight because I've always been like super skinny. If anything, I've gained some weight.
What are the most important reasons for you to be vegan now, as opposed to, you know, when you first went vegan?
Yeah. Well, now, you know, it's a lot different because I know a lot of animals that were formerly used for food, and they're my friends. So I have a lot more personal connection to veganism. I guess more of an emotional connection to veganism. Whereas when I first went vegan, it was a little more in my head.
Why is it important for others to be vegan?
Well, you know, there's so many reasons. First and foremost, just for the animals. All these beautiful animals that deserve life and deserve happiness. That's a huge reason. Of course, the environment, the environmental costs of eating meat and using animal products is much greater than if you're on a vegan diet.
And how do you encourage others to be vegan?
I think mostly just by example, just by being who I am. I'm not somebody who tries to kind of sell veganism that much. I think it's more of a just kind of lead by example for me. Yeah.
And wouldn't you say maybe your work with the sanctuary is also?
Yeah. I'd say, you know, the animal-centered design that we do here at the Refuge, where we try to think about what spaces, both inside spaces and outside spaces, can help animals be who they really are and live their best life. I think that has also probably has an impact. Although it may be hard to measure, it expresses a value system, valuing animals with design, with architecture, with thoughtful design processes. So again, it's a kind of a lead by example. So I'm actually an architectural designer. So yeah, I have a day job with an architecture firm down in Pittsburgh, just about 10 minutes away, 10-minute drive. Working there, I'd get to do a little bit of animal work there, but I'd like to do more animal work with my day job. But then I get to do a lot of animal work here at the Refuge, design and building.
So while you say you really don't invest a lot of energy toward encouraging others, you'd probably do way more than you're giving yourself credit for. I mean, because what you've done here is very significant, right? And so talk about that really quick. Maybe elaborate on some of your design work and how you go about that process.
Yeah. So here at the Refuge, we've been starting to do something we call animal-centered design. And it's a design process where before we rescue any specific species of animals, like say cows, for example, we'll do a lot of research on cows and then go and spend some time with cows, just kind of sketching them and seeing what their daily life is like. And we'll just learn as much as we can about them and try to put ourselves in their hooves, I guess, and see what it might be like to be a cow. And then from that, we'll take some concepts about a specific animal. So for cows, like one concept that we came up with was the fact that they don't like to be too enclosed. They often really don't like going in barns at all because they feel too enclosed. So we'll take things like that we learn about them that are kind of essential to their relationship to spaces, and then we'll design a space that can kind of accommodate those things about cows. So we give them credit that you know, they deserve thoughtful design just as much as anybody else. So that's animal-centered design.
Wow. And now, is that something you came up with, or is that something that's already out there?
There's been some, you know, thought similar to that in zoos, but I'm not gonna endorse zoos, of course, because they are profit. You know, their bottom line is profit from the animals. But I think, you know, in more recent years, there has been some thought in that direction in zoos in trying to make animal spaces more tailored to the animals. You know, when I was first researching it, there wasn't hardly any literature on it, and the process itself is basically just taken from what I learned in school and some of my internships. It's a design process that we use for humans in architecture schools, where we try to learn as much about the specific client as we can, and then design spaces that fit their lifestyle. And when you apply that to animals, it's really almost the same, but you have to give them that credit that they deserve. Yeah.
Mention a few more. You mentioned the cows. Now, Lenore was telling me about how you positioned and done unique things for, like, the goats and the chickens, or the ducks. Sorry, the ducks.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh, sort of the siding of the structures.
Yeah,
and stuff?
just to show how intricate it is what you're doing. And,
oh yeah,
and thought through.
Yeah, yeah. So with ducks and geese, you know, some of the things we learned about them when we were doing our research was just how their lives really just center around water. And if they're not in water, they're on the edge of the water. You know, everything they do kind of revolves around a routine with a body of water. So we thought their structure should, you know, their living structure should be all about the water as well. So it's kind of like a little duck cabana that's kind of has a porch that cantilevers out over the water. They have little doors that open up so they can have a full view of the water. Then some of the things we try to do with a lot of the structures here is called passive solar design, where we try to use the natural elements that are for free, you know, sun, wind, things like that, to heat the spaces in the wintertime and then cool the spaces in the summertime. So actually with the duck and goose houses, it's pretty cool because we've got the whole structure faces south. It's got a big expanse of windows on that south side. And then it's got the pond to the south too. And so in the winter, when the sun's low in the south, it kind of streams in the structure, heats it up, and then it also bounces off the pond and into the structure, kind of casting light reflections on the ceiling from the ripples in the water, so they can always kind of feel in touch with that water.
Wow, that's brilliant. And then also with the is it goats or sheep? I always get those two confused. What is that?
Goat.
All right, so yeah, with the goats you have these walls that heat up, and they're on the other side. Yeah, talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so with the goats, we learned that in this climate in North Carolina, they can get a little bit chilly in the winter. And Lily, she's one goat that will tell you, she gets a little bit chilly, so she wears a little coat during the winter. But we tried to do what we could with passive solar heating for their structure. So we have a vertical wall that faces south, and it's kind of painted a dark color so that in the wintertime, the sun, again from the south, and the low angle sun will stream in, hit that wall, warm up, and then on the inside of their structure, we have these goat bunk beds against the side of that wall so that they can regain some of that day sunlight heat at night when they're sleeping. Some people like to use, electric heat, different things, heat lamps to help animals stay warm. We try to stay away from any of that if possible. You know, like electricity and barns don't mix well. And there's so many horror stories of fires and stuff. So we try to do as little in terms of heating and cooling with electricity as possible, and try to keep it based on just the natural elements.
And then there was some pretty impressive things you did with the chicken coops too, I think, right? Where, you know, it closes and it opens. And...
Yeah, so with the chicken and turkey house, we're trying to kind of reconcile two very different design criteria. So at night, when a lot of their predators come out, we wanted their house to be kind of like a fortress that's just impenetrable, so that no predators can get in there. Because so many people who've had chickens over the years have horror stories of this animal getting in, that animal getting in, and everybody kind of wants to eat chickens, you know, even possums. It's incredible how many predators they have. So we had that criteria at night. And then we had kind of the opposite criteria during the day, because we wanted the structure to be as open as possible and airy and sunny and all that, because chickens and turkeys, if their house is too enclosed, they can get a lot of indoor air quality problems. And if you've been into a lot of chicken houses, they can be just absolutely atrocious and can actually harm the birds in terms of their air quality. So we had those two opposing design criteria. So what we did is these walls for the structure actually just open up kind of like a big advent calendar. They just like pop open. That way we can get lots of air and sunlight and wind through there to keep that healthy environment for them, and also just connect them to the outdoors where they love to be during the day so much.
What challenges have you had since becoming vegan, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, family, friends, shopping, anything like that?
You can kind of be the butt of jokes with groups of people who aren't vegan. Like when I go to work sometimes, they'll make fun of me. But you know, I don't have too many challenges really with it.
How has being vegan affected your relationships, like very specifically, like intimate relationships or friendships?
Being here with the Refuge, there's just such a community of vegans that come out here. So for me, I often, you know, have a hard time making friends, but I've made a lot of friends out here, and often they're really nice people, you know, people who care about others. So that's been a real blessing for me.
Could you be with somebody who isn't vegan?
In terms of like an intimate relationship or something? You know, I probably could. You know, I think it would be it'd be a stressor in the relationship. But I'm not. Yeah, I'm a pretty open person, so.
How do you deal with other family members that are not vegan, like during the holidays?
You know, my family have always been super supportive of me. More of my kind of distant relatives or relatives through marriage and stuff can sometimes give you crap about it at the holidays. But you know, time has helped with that. You know, I guess when we were first going vegan, it came up a lot more, and was kind of a sticking point with family at some gatherings. But it's kind of worked itself out over time, and yeah, so I'd say time helps with that.
Sounds like patience might have been.
Yeah.
How might it be different if you were raised vegan?
I don't know. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say anything you want, man.
That would take some of the guilt away, you know, that you kind of feel when you look back at all the animals you ate or ate their products and didn't really think about it. I wouldn't have had those kind of self-growth experiences where I kind of got to figure it out for myself. You know, I think when you make a life change like that, it's a point where you can really learn a lot about yourself and learn to think critically about the things that you may take for granted every day, just your daily routine.
Do you have any regrets?
None that I can think of.
What are some of the mistakes you've made?
Mistakes? Well, it depends on if you're talking like big mistakes or just everyday mistakes, because I make so many mistakes every day. And I mean, just working with the animal-centered design is something that hasn't been applied to, at least to farm animals before. And I make mistakes all the time with my designs, and then I kind of cringe when I think back on them, and it helps me not do those things anymore. You know, I think that's the best way to learn, is to try something and fail, because it makes a big impact on you when you do that.
Yeah, they call it the capacity for applied failure.
I like that.
Why didn't you go vegan sooner?
I hadn't met Lenore.
Your wife.
Yeah, my wife. I think anybody who meets her and hangs out with her for long enough will understand what I mean. She's been a big influence on me.
Prior to going vegan, did you ever think there was no way you could do that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I thought that. I just hadn't been exposed to enough friends or family that challenged me on it. Yeah.
Do you ever worry about any specific nutrients?
B12, I do take some B12 supplement. Other than that, no.
How do you suggest others get started?
I would suggest, you know, I think the best thing is to have some sort of community or friends that you can share your experience with, and to encourage you. You know, the Refuge luckily is a great place for people to be part of a community like that. Yeah.
Do you have any resources you want to recommend?
Resources I want to recommend for vegans. Well, we do have, if you're local, we do have this beautiful vegan library here. Any other resources?
Your wife recommended a cookbook. Maybe you have one you like, or a website, or a documentary, or...
Can't think of any right now. Sorry.
Why do you think some people quit veganism?
You know, I think often people who do it as part of a health thing, trying a new diet, you know, that can be something that doesn't last as long as people who do it for more deeper reasons, like ethical reasons to help animals or to help the environment. Those can be more meaningful and more central to who you are than a diet or something like that.
Do you have any success stories you want to share?
I guess I would just think about the animal-centered design, and when you have a moment when you've completed a structure and then the animals move in and they know exactly what to do, like the goats knew exactly how to arrange themselves on their bunk beds at night, you know, it's like, it's almost like for them it was like, oh, this is how goat houses always are, and they always should be. You know, when you have moments like that, it's a real pleasure.
I bet. Is there anything about vegans you wish you could change?
Sometimes I feel like people can be a little too hardlined. I feel like sometimes vegans can't celebrate incremental progress in other people. I feel like a lot of change is incremental. For me, it was incremental, and for a lot of other people I know, it was incremental. So I feel like being able to celebrate that in other people when they do make small changes towards vegetarian or veganism, I think that's something that I wish vegans would do more.
That's a good one. I like that. Do you think we'll ever see a vegan world?
I hope so. With the way things are going with climate change, we're gonna have to make a lot of hard choices in the future, and I think some of it might be out of necessity. Other parts of it might be, when there's a turning point when vegan products and vegan, say, meats and cheeses and things like that, when they become cheaper than animal products, I think that might be a real tipping point as well.
And what do you think a vegan world would look like?
Well, come out to the Refuge. See for yourself.
What foods do you eat on a daily basis, like breakfast, lunch, dinner kind of food?
We've been trying to eat a lot of oatmeal in the mornings with different variety of stuff in it, like fruits, nuts, and my wife gets bored with things that are the same day after day, so I make the oatmeal in the morning, and I have a slew of different fruits and stuff that I try to sprinkle in there, try to make it a little different every day. And in terms of lunch and dinner, we've been trying to eat some from the Forks Over Knives cookbook, and we've been trying to find recipes in there that we really like, and found some good ones. Those meals make you feel really good. The Forks Over Knives meals, I can recommend them.
Like, give me an example, like a couple that are your favorites.
Oh yeah, rice and beans. I'm pretty easy to please. Some of the sauces that you can make with, we've made some things like nacho dip with just cashews and carrots as a nacho dip. Some of the things you can make from just healthy whole foods like that just blow my mind. And the aquafaba that somehow chickpea water turns into meringue. I don't understand it, but it's amazing.
How much of your diet is raw?
I'd say at lunch I eat more raw foods. Breakfast and dinner, we usually cook stuff. Fresh fruits and veggies. For lunch, sometimes I'll eat some raw food. But I would say, I don't know, 10-15%, something like that.
What do you think about people going on meat-based diets, like the Carnivore, the Keto, the Paleo, the Atkins?
I don't really think about it. It doesn't seem like a great idea to me.
Do you ever crave eating animals after you gave it up?
No, but sometimes I'll get a craving for like protein-heavy foods. But I can easily satisfy that with like say seitan or tofu or like a tempeh or something like that. I can easily satisfy that. Or some of the products they have, like a vegan jerky, like even a mushroom jerky is really good. But sometimes I'll get a craving for like a heavy protein after doing a lot of physical work or something like that.
What are your thoughts on fake meats?
Products that mimic it too closely, like plant-based meats and stuff, sometimes they can turn me off. But I'm really happy that they exist, because it gives people options. We're trying to eat more plant-based whole food diet if possible, but then it's so nice sometimes to just eat those comfort foods of, you know, like say a plant-based chicken or something. It can be really comforting to have those options. Yeah.
Would you ever eat lab-grown meat?
I would try it, sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If your doctor said you had to eat animals, what would you do?
I think I would explore other resources because doctors aren't always the authoritative source on that. Yeah.
Tell us about your sanctuary.
Yeah. So Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge here in Pittsboro, North Carolina. We have over 120 rescued farm animals from abuse, neglect, and abandonment cases, and they're from all over the country. And it's a place where you can come out and learn their stories, and some really amazing stories of these animals and the hardships that they've been through and the triumph that they were able to come to a beautiful place. It's also a great place for a community of super nice vegans and other people who aren't even vegan, who love animals.
And how can they find out more about it, maybe contribute?
You can find out more about Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge at our website, piedmontrefuge.org. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. I think we have a TikTok account. If you'd like to contribute, there's ways to do that through our website. There's also tons of volunteering opportunities that we have out here for people of all types of skills. Or if you don't feel like you have skills in certain areas, you can come out here and develop them. There's so much to do out here in so many ways to help animals.